Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tank. Today is September 20th, 2021, and we're going to be discussing what's going on in the crypto market. We'll be talking about where we are in the market, why we are where we are in the market, as well as where I think we might be going in the short to near future. Before I go any further, though, let's first talk about why we are where we are and why we're seeing so much selling pressure, not only in the crypto market, but all markets for that matter. Basically, what's happening, and I'll try to be as short as I can with this, but there's a lot of details when you do talk about this. So do your own homework after I briefly talk about it. What's currently happening is there is a very big real estate development company in China, which is currently in the process of defaulting on billions of dollars of debt that they have there in China. There's also the fear that we have here in the States of the feds talking about tapering. Basically, if you guys don't know what that is, again, I suggest you guys Google it and do your own homework. But it's basically their way of dealing with hyperinflation. If you guys don't know, we're in very big inflation zone right now after going through what we all went through just recently as a world, as a whole. I can't talk about it here directly on YouTube because they don't like us talking about it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. When that Black Swan event, there was massive amount of money printing, not only in the US government, but around the world with those economic powers trying to stimulate their economies so that it didn't collapse. Now, whenever they printed massive amounts of money, they pumped it into the society. Well, that society wasn't really working. And what happened was, basically, in a short roundabout way of saying things, everything got hyperinflated. There was a massive amount of money coming into the stock markets, to the crypto markets. There was massive over leveraging of lending happening from the banks as well as borrowing from the banks. And that's what actually really happened with this company. Not just, this wasn't the first time it happened with that company in China, but it's been ongoing for a while because that's what banks do, right? They're in the business of lending money. They're not in the business of holding your money. They actually lend out your money. And again, if you guys don't know what really happens with centralized banks, please do your homework. But that's what's happened with this big real estate development company is they were lended a massive amount of money, over leveraged lending happened, and over promises were made. And now this real estate development company obviously has no way of paying it back. And if their housing market crashes, that means we will crash as well, because if you guys don't know, we are in massive amounts of debt to China. We get everything from China. We've been way too dependent on China to provide us with everything. And if they collapse, we collapse along with them. So a lot of people are just basically concerned about what's happening over there. There's a lot of uncertainty. And of course, the powers at the helm of the ship are not being very forthcoming about their plans of attack on how to conquer these situations that we're currently going through. Even here in the States, let's just be honest, they haven't been very forthcoming on, what their plan of attack is to deal with hyperinflation, to deal with the possible collapse, to deal with the over leveraged scenarios that are playing out in all the markets right now. Including, as you guys know, in crypto, we were very much over leveraged here when we had this massive crash. And then that's usually why you have big crashes, is because things are overextended and over leveraged within all economies. And that's what's currently going on in a nutshell. I know I said I was going to be brief about it, but do your homework about it, guys. That's basically what's happening in a nutshell. There's a lot of uncertainty happening for a lot of economies, not just China, not just for the US, but, worldwide, because we're all still dealing with what we're dealing with. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about as a whole. So that's currently what's happening right now. Now, again, with all of that being said, I know all of that sounds extremely bearish. I want you to know there's ways out of this. And I do think that the CCP or the China's government will not let their economy collapse. I think they will step in and do what they have to do, whether it be in the short term or long term. They're going to step in and make sure that their housing market doesn't crash and that their economy doesn't fully crash like we've seen before, especially here in the States. I think they'll do what they need to do, whether it be printing more money or whatnot. They're going to do something. It's not of their character to be out of control. The CCP likes to be in control of the situation. They like to be in control of their economy, of their people. And I do think that they will, do what they need to do to make sure that, things don't get too out of hand. With that being said, that doesn't mean that we are going to be able to do the same here in the States. We have a totally different way of governing ourselves here. And it's unfortunate, but we're dealing with a whole big different set of things ourselves. We have hyperinflation. We have massive money printing happening. We have very low job rating. it's I can go on and on and on and on, and I'm not trying to take a political stance on it, but it doesn't look good here in the States. And there's only two ways to get out of it, really. Well, there's three. There's to remain in inflation zone and to just keep kicking the can down the road, and keep printing money and keep printing money and keep trying to push it back into the economy, stimulating the economy. Or we go into deflation, or worst of all, we go into stagflation. Regardless of what you think is going to be happening or when you think it's going to be happening or whatever, eventually something's got to give. You can't just keep going inevitably forever, right? Something's going to give. So whether it's now or whether it's later, something's going to happen. I think a lot of people right now in the exchanges, whether it be the crypto market, Forex, whatever, regular stocks, traditional stocks, they're all just kind of cautious about what's currently happening in the economies around the world, not just the US, not just China, but that's in a nutshell. And again, that was a very big nutshell because I tried to make it really small and I just ranted, but that's in a nutshell what's currently happening. Now, let's talk about what we're looking for as far as the charts and Bitcoin and the rest of these crypto assets go. So obviously right now we're looking at Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame, and if you guys don't know, I use Market Cipher as my primary oscillator and indicator tool. Right now we're trading at $44,000. Now we have come up a bit ever since hitting right around $42,500. So we have come up just a little bit after getting all the way down there. Now I do think that we will get a hold of the current situation and we will see a lengthening cycle happen. That's been my position for some time now. I don't think that we're going to go into a bear market anytime soon now, unless we do get manipulated. That is, all bets are off. If you get manipulated down into it, that's a totally different thing. It doesn't matter what technical you have or TA you have to provide people. When you get manipulated into things, it doesn't really matter because, you could say whatever you want with the setup that we have here. It looked extremely bullish and we got manipulated on right there when El Salvador took Bitcoin as a legal form of tender that day. That's literally on September 7th was the day that happened. And it should have been, it is, in my opinion, one of the most bullish days in the history of Bitcoin. The first nation country, or I'll be honest, I don't know if they're a nation state or country. They're the smallest country in South America. I know that, to accept Bitcoin ever. The first country ever to accept Bitcoin as a legal form of payment. So that was history in the making, and it turned out to be a super bearish day because it was meant to be that way by the manipulators. It should have been an extremely bullish day, but it wasn't. And again, we saw what happened back here when things were over leveraged, overextended. People got wrecked. That's usually what happens in these markets, guys. When people are over leveraged, overextended, that's when things go haywire. That's when things go off the rails and the train crashes. But right now, I don't think that we are over leveraged as far as the market goes in crypto. I think this is a very well representation of the worth of Bitcoin and the rest of these assets. There is some leverage happening. There is, when I say some, don't disregard that because there's a lot of money that's leveraged right now. But in comparison to what we've seen before is what I'm trying to say. We are seeing what I believe is a true representation when it comes to Bitcoin and its store of value. I do think, as you guys can see here, if we look at the charts, I have some simple things to show you guys here that right here, obviously, was our recent floor, which is right around $29,000, $30,000. I do not think that we're going to be coming back down or ever seeing below that level again, unless the powers that be just want it for some whatever reason, want it to go down to the ground and manipulate it down that way. I don't think that that's going to be the case. I do see where we're currently at as a very strong level of support. As you guys can see, using the Fibonacci retracement tool, we're sitting right at that 0.618 on the 4-hour time frame, which is this Fibonacci level right now. We've been here for some time. As you guys can see here, we've had good price point or price history here for Bitcoin in the past, and I do think that that is a good level of support where we're currently at. Is there room to go down further? Sure, of course. If we get manipulated down a little bit more and people capitulate and actually start going into the fear, we could come all the way down to this 0.382, which would be a really good level of support, which is around $38,000 before finding another move back to the upside. All in all, guess what I'm trying to say is I don't necessarily believe that this is the end of this cycle, that we're going to be going into a bear market unless we get manipulated. Like I said, I do think that this is just a really big shakeout yet again for multiple reasons. One leading into what's happening in China and also what's happening here in the States with the feds. But it's just a really good shakeout opportunity right now for the big whales, the powers that be, the market movers, market makers, before seeing really high price appreciation for Bitcoin and the rest of these assets. I did sell when I saw weakness up here, full disclosure, a good portion of Bitcoin and reallocated it into altcoins, which I'm very, very happy I did. I'm seeing massive profits right now. Even with this current dip, I'm seeing massive profits right now with my altcoin allocation. But, I'm prepared for three things. And I always tell you guys, there's only three things that are ever going to happen in this market. We either dump to the downside, we go sideways, or we pump. Right now, to be honest with you, just by momentum, just by the sentiment, just by what's currently happening off the charts with social media and whatnot, the chances of us coming back down to this 0.5 or even this 0.382 for Bitcoin is very, very high, just based on the waterfall effect that the markets have. There's a saying, it's like taking an elevator down to the ground floor, but when you're trying to see higher price points, it's like taking the stairs. It's much easier to push the ball down the hill than it is to climb back up, guys, and push the ball back up the hill. So just keep that in mind. If momentum falls and just goes with the bears, we could quite easily see the 0.382, which is right around $38,000. Now, I don't think, like I said, guys, that we're going to get past that $30,000 ever again. I really don't, unless we get manipulated. I could be wrong, but I really don't think so, because if you do the homework outside on these charts and go into the on-chain data that's out there for everybody to see, you go to Cryptoquant and places of the like, you can see that there's less and less Bitcoin to be had. There's less and less Bitcoin on exchanges. There's more and more hodlers. More and more whales are accumulating these Bitcoin, these that are out there right now. And with scarcity comes value. That's the whole point of Bitcoin, right? Over time, there's going to be less and less and less of it because it's set in mathematically in the program that way to be that way. And with scarcity, no matter what, comes wealth, comes value. More things are more scarce, the more it's valuable. So that's the set programming that is Bitcoin. That's why it's a great store of value. You can't just print more and more of it like fiat money. There's going to be less and less of it, and the people who have some of it are going to be a lot better off than the people who have none of it. And I think El Salvador and other countries that are considering using Bitcoin, or at least accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment in their countries, are on to that fact. It's not going away. You can't get control of it. You can't regulate it. There's no head of a snake to cut off. It's math. It's a program running independently on its own without a figurehead to regulate. So you're not going to be able to get rid of it eventually. It might not be in my lifetime. It won't be when it gets to zero. It definitely not be in my lifetime, but eventually it's going to be very, very hard to do anything about increasing the value of Bitcoin. It's just going to happen naturally. But yeah, I'm sorry to go into a rant, but I kind of want to reassure you guys, just because we're seeing these price movements right now, if you're a long-term hodler, you have a very big time horizon, I don't think there's anything to worry about. I really do not think there's anything to worry about. I do think that we'll get over this. We will start seeing higher price points like we always do. Even when the stock market crashed before, we always get over it. We see higher price points. If I go all the way back here to when we actually had the World Black Swan event happen, you can see, excuse me here, let me go actually to the daily. It's a lot easier for me to find here on the daily. This is when it happened right here in March. It actually happened on my birthday, March 10th, back here in 2020. That Black Swan event brought us down almost over 50 something percent in like no time. And then we recovered, and then we were on our way, guys. This was a massive sell-off of assets. This is when everything sold off. It was a mass panic, and that was the worst of it. And then we saw higher price points. Now, the fundamentals and the technicals of Bitcoin and a lot of these other assets are very, very bullish. Regardless if we have, a taper with the feds, even if we have a huge correction happen long term, I think you're A-okay. Now let's talk about the short term for Bitcoin and the rest of these assets. Now on the daily, using Market Cipher, you can see on Market Cipher A, we do have a blood diamond. So the possibility of us coming down further is very, very likely. Whenever you have blood diamonds, we usually do see further price suppression on the charts. The blood diamonds on the daily don't happen very often. So when they do pop up, be aware of it. That's not to say that it doesn't turn around. We saw them right here when we had a blood diamond, and then we saw higher price points. Let me see if I can find another example of that. Yeah, we had a blood diamond here where we came down just gradually, and then we saw much higher price points. If you guys look at the daily candle again, you can see that we have a pretty good length of wick, which means we have support here. We have support coming in, even with all of this uncertainty, even with all this FUD, even with all of this happening in the world. We show that people are buying up this price point right now, because I do think that they recognize the fundamentals and the technicals that is Bitcoin. If we move on over to the 4-hour time frame and just take a look at Market Cipher B, you can see that we're so deep as far as this anchor wave goes, guys. This anchor wave is used as a good indicator of selling pressure being exhausted, and we're at like almost 85 on the charts. That's deep. That's really deep. We normally don't get that deep. Let's look back here. Throughout this whole run, we've gotten there like once or twice before. One all the way back here. That's usually a good buying signal. Now, don't front run that because we are still in the red as far as money flow goes, but we do show that the RSIs on the 4-hour time frame have started to round out and come back up a little bit. Don't front run that because it is a lagging indicator as well. I just want to kind of point a couple of things out to you guys. So that's what I'm seeing for Bitcoin. We're not looking too bad. Tell me what you guys think. I'm sorry I went on to kind of a tangent there. Let me know what you guys think is going to be happening in the future. Let me know if you guys disagree with me. Let me know if you guys are out, if this is the start of a bear market in your opinion, or if this is just the last shakeout before a humongous breakout. I hope you guys are doing well either way. I hope you guys are in profits either way. I hope you guys are not overextended. Be blessed. Peace.